Happy President's Day on Comic Book Canon. That's all I got. Yeah, this was a rush here. I'm trying to put away all my stuff, trying to put together all my stuff, trying to do all my stuff before the show so we can put on a great show for you tonight. Very excited about tonight. But first, I want to address something Chris is dealing on the home front. Some of you may know, you follow his Instagram, and right now comics are kind of the least of his concerns, and we should all just, be supportive, say hello. Chris is Comic Book Canon just as much as I am Comic Book Canon, but this guy here that I'm about to introduce is becoming more and more Comic Book Canon as well. And I'm so happy to have him on. My good friend, my partner in crime, and tonight's co-host, Joseph, aka 360 Comics. What's happening, hot stuff?
Hello, everybody. I am back.
He is back, but he's like, honestly, this is his 3 weeks in a row. You have 3 appearances.
No, wasn't he? Well, yeah, I was on last week.
Last week was your birthday.
5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the week before, I think you co-hosted as well. So again, super happy you're on. We got a fun new segment that's going to be Comic Book Canon related specifically for Joe. Very excited about that. Before we get into the news, why don't we do this and get everybody, we want to hear from you in the audience as well, what you thought, if you saw Quantumania. Joe and I both saw Quantumania, not together, because if we were together, we'd have to get, because I get Twizzlers. I get Twizzlers in every movie I go to.
Oh, dude, pretzel bites.
Cool. Okay, so we don't need to share.
No, and I usually smuggle in my own. This is gonna sound absolutely ridiculous. I dip my pretzels in pasta sauce.
What?
Specifically Don Pepito's pasta sauce.
Christ, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Don't apologize for being you. It's just I've never heard of that before because you do live in Philly and mustard is usually the go-to.
I am not a mustard guy.
Oh my God, Joe.
Sorry.
So are you relieved as much as I am that we do not need to share our refreshments or anything like that for film?
Sure, yeah.
Because I'm not giving you any Twizzlers. I will not be asking you for your pretzels with your pasta sauce. Okay,
cool.
Wow. All right, so Joe, I'm going to have you go first with your spoiler-free review of Quantumania. What did you think?
Spoiler-free review. Okay, the first thing, and I posted this within minutes of seeing that movie. I thought it was one of the best Star Wars movies that I have seen in the last few years. And I mean that in a very good way. It felt like I was watching the original, like a fourth movie from the original Star Wars trilogy as a kid. Like I was really, really happy with this movie. In fact, Raising Elm said 8.5 out of 10. That is the exact rating that I would give this movie. Great, not perfect, not the best movie I've ever seen, not a top 5 MCU movie, but up there enough that I thought it was a great movie. I plan to see it again in theaters. The world building they did, that's what made it really feel like Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And they had the whole, I can't really give away a lot, but the whole quantum realm just felt like another sector in the Star Wars galaxy. So I thought it was really cool. I love how they're doing different styles of movies for all they're not just action superhero movies. They're very different styles, and same thing with the shows. And this one, it felt like a space western.
Well said, space western. And it's interesting you bring that point up because they're intentionally doing this, having different genres that that they're putting their characters that have 80 years of history, right? They're putting those characters in there into different genres that is the MCU.
Yep.
So I like you're liking it to Star Wars. I thought it was a Star Wars movie in the MCU. It was a lot of fun. Action was crazy. My neighbor, I saw it with my neighbor and his son, and he was like that. Those are the best action scenes since not Infinity War, since
Endgame.
Oh my God. Those are the best because I mean, like literally, the action scenes were intense. They were very creative in terms visually. I enjoyed it. The plot, I think we were distracted a lot by the bells and whistles of the visuals and the fun element to it. Because there were darker tones as well. The plot was a little bit thin. Uh,
Okay.
but I'd have to say overall it was an excellent film, and in my opinion, the best part of the film was Jonathan Majors as Kang.
Oh,
His
hands down.
his this is spoiler free, Caleb. By the way, I don't think we've crossed that line yet. Um, but Jonathan Majors, like somebody wrote, Jonathan Majors is a force. You know those, the billboard kind of ad things. He was. Absolutely was. His performance was incredible. You feared him. I think again because of the plot, you feared him less than you should have. But he was just cold blooded, brutal, and had one goal in mind. And I loved that. I loved his portrayal of Kang. I'm looking forward to seeing. We've already had two different portrayals of Kang. One in the Loki series, one in this film, and obviously moving forward, we're going to see a ton of him. But again, guys, let us know what you think in the chat here.
What
Yes, this is
CGC
spoiler free GSW CMO.
what CGC rating do you give it? I gave it 8.5.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, CGC. Yeah, I agree. It's not the best, guys. It's, in my opinion, I think in Joe's opinion too, it's not the best MCU film. I would probably give it an 8.
Okay.
An 8.
Totally fair. Which, lower side of high grade, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an entertaining film. I think it pushes the boundaries of what you're saying. It gets us to another realm of the MCU, more deep. We've already seen the quantum realm, bits and pieces here from I think Ant-Man 2. So I absolutely 100% agree with you. Like, we're exploring a new world, and that's what they're trying to do here. We got the cosmic realm. We got the street fighters are coming with Daredevil and those kinds of things. You got what am I missing here? Like the big Avengers kind of world building, whatever. It's building this universe, and I absolutely love it. Caleb Leland said there were some spine ticks on it. I don't know, Caleb, if you saw it. I think anyways. So
it was not a perfect movie. If you're going in there expecting to see another Infinity War, Endgame, or Civil War, you're not gonna see that. But if you go in there thinking, this is just gonna be another Love and Thunder, which I've seen people compare it to Love and Thunder, and I cannot get over the fact that people are comparing those two movies, because Love and Thunder was bad and this is a good movie.
Love and Thunder wasn't bad, but it was, in my opinion, I'd give that a 6.5 probably.
It wasn't Dark World bad, but it wasn't.
Dark World was bad. That movie was bad. Iron Man 2, in my opinion, was bad. Like, those are probably the worst MCU films in my opinion. But
Dark World is bottom of the barrel for me.
Ooh, that one was really bad. But luckily that was early on in the MCU. They were trying some things and it just didn't work. So anyways, all right. That's our spoiler-free review of Quantumania. Let's get into the news, shall we? Because we do have some more MCU news. That's right. We're talking the Marvels. This isn't that great, but it's also not terrible either. This film is being pushed back to November 10th. I don't recall off the top of my head, didn't do my homework, what the original release date was, but looking like November 10th, probably a few months back, which is not that bad. But we got this really cool poster. Brie Larson tweeted this one out. Tagline being higher, further, faster, which you know from the first film, but they also add together. And Joe, what's interesting about this is look at the backgrounds of Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers. You see their logos.
Yep.
You don't see much of a logo for Miss Marvel, but maybe because she's on the ground there. But I'm psyched for this, man. I'm excited for this film. I think this is going to be great. Another addition, and also a female-led kind of super team in a way, cosmic super team, and the way they've left us hanging from Miss Marvel. I'm excited to see how this is all going to play out. Probably going to be some friction between Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers. She left and all that stuff. So I don't know your thoughts.
All right. So this is completely based on just my own thoughts. This could just be me reaching here, but the fact that they're stacked on top of each other and in a certain distance away from the ground has me thinking maybe possibly this is showing us where these characters are going to go in the future. Maybe Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, she's going to stay as more of an earthbound hero. Whereas
I like that. Okay.
maybe Carol Danvers is going to be more cosmic, but still, close to home. Maybe a more, kind of bridging the gap between the
Yeah. Yeah.
cosmic and the
That's fair.
earthbound. And then we got Monica Rambeau up there, possibly being the like full-time cosmic entity. I think it would be a really cool way to split these three characters up going forward in the MCU. This is totally just a off-the-cuff prediction when I first saw this, not based on anything else other than where they're positioned on the poster.
I like that speculation. That's definitely interesting. I think in terms of you're looking about going back to the date change, I think this plays into what they were saying. I think Kevin Feige had a quote earlier in the week. We covered this last week, saying that they're going to produce less Marvel shows. So this means less content that they'll spread out throughout the year. I think we had a whole year without the MCU and the pandemic, and then all of a sudden there was a deluge. And I think all of those things were in active production when the pandemic happened, and they had to release all of those projects. And I think now they're going to start spreading it out, which is not a bad idea. Oversaturation is what I was worried about. Superhero fatigue, people talk about that. I don't know if that's a thing or not, to be honest with you. I mean, the way that Ant-Man's performing this weekend, I don't see that as being, something here, but I do think that they're going to start spreading the content out a little bit more, give us some breathing room. I'm on the fence about that. Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, before I'm gonna forget it. Serge Henderson, if you want this poster, send me your address on Instagram. It's yours. You don't have to pay me for it. I appreciate you asking if it's for sale, but it was free to me. My LCS gave it to me, so I'm passing it on to you.
Look at Joe, one of the best guys in the community.
Anyway, yes, I think it's great that they're kind of spreading things out a little bit more. Especially, we're going to be getting a lot more DC stuff as well. Things are up and running with DC again. We got the last couple of movies before what seems to be the hard reset or whatever. So yeah, I think it's good that they're spreading it out. I think it was really hard for the mid-level and casual fans to really keep up. Me, I'm seeing every movie Thursday opening night. I'm seeing every television show the day it comes out, sometimes setting my alarm for 3 a.m. to watch it when it posts on Disney Plus. Not everyone does that. And I'm aware of that. And, I have friends that are really into the movies that have had to catch up over the last couple months because they've just fallen behind. So I think it's good for the longevity of things to slow it down a little bit.
Agreed. It's also hard with kids, really hard with kids. And Ant-Man was the first time in years I went on the Thursday night before it came out. So I was super psyched to do that. Planet Arizona, I like this comment. We're making less shows equals Disney doesn't have the cash it once did. That could be something to think about. However, the cash that they're pulling in each project, it balances out. Like everything you're getting subscribers on Disney Plus, I think. It balances out at the box office for sure. Their approach it's almost like they make less than $1 billion a film. It's a failure, right? And they're doing that. So, and the production budgets and overall budgets are not near $1 billion. So the marketing included. So I don't know if it's cash flow thing as much as it is a longevity thing, like Joe was saying. And and moving on, because it's interesting. I thought we covered this last week. We did not cover this last week. This is why I remember saying this. It was this week's show. God, I am losing the people. Marvel is slowing its content output on Disney Plus. The Hollywood Reporter had an article that Marvel will be throttling their content output for the foreseeable future with only Loki and Secret Invasion coming out this year. It's quite the drop from last year with Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, What If? And that also includes specials such as Werewolf by Night and the Guardians Holiday Special. But only time will tell if this is going to be, a lasting kind of policy they have. Ironheart and Echo were supposed to be this year, but they'll be pushed back until 2024. Who knows if we'll see any more of those seasonal specials? I really hope we do, because both of them were great, Werewolf by Night and Guardians. But again, it goes back to what you're saying, Joe, longevity. But if you compare last year's roster to this year's roster in terms of just shows, the regular shows dropped off from 4 to 2. That's 50% drop.
Yeah.
And there's no mention or no rumors of any of those seasonal kind of productions happening. So
Yeah, but then again, I feel like the movies this year are a lot more important than the movies last year. Like, the Quantumania was definitely a big movie,
yeah,
big movie as far as the future of the MCU, and I think the Marvels will be too.
yeah.
Um, that being said, last year I think the movies were just kind of more tying up some loose ends and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, and I think that was kind of the kind of the end phase of the pandemic, the effect of the pandemic, because we're so far removed from a year without any Marvel content, right?
Yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
felt like a decade ago, right? So those plans all shifted and everything kind of clumped together, and that's why. So I think now we're getting into more, a regular cadence that can be attributed to what they already had planned out. So either way, we're getting more content. We love this content, and I want to keep it going. Absolutely. We also love DC characters. I know you do. I do. Christopher does as well. And it's quite interesting here because we have a little DC news. Can't hurt. We
Tidbit.
love hearing this DC news because they're ending this DCEU era and bringing in the DCU in style. Granted, we're about a couple of years away from their first projects, but we're hearing about the news. And also, James Gunn did say within the next 6 months we're going to hear some big casting news. But the next movie we have from the DCU or DCEU, depending on where this is going to fall, is Shazam, the sequel, Fury of the Gods. And Zachary Levi responded to if he'll be back as Shazam after this film. In an interview with Den of Geeks, Zachary Levi says, as fate would have it, we have two new excellent leaders in James Gunn and Peter Safran. They're both friends of mine who I trust very deeply, and I know that they are concocting really cool plans. I don't know what they are, but I will trust wherever they want to take us. There's obviously little ideas here and there that I brought up in the past. I'm sure I'm going to sit down with James and Peter soon enough, and we'll talk about what we think the trajectory of this will be. The success of the second movie will determine a lot. And as I said, Shazam Fury of the Gods comes out March 17th this month. Joe, you and I have both stated on record that we really enjoyed Shazam. The first Shazam was awesome. And that's not why the reason isn't because it was shot in Philly. That's a cool part, though. That's definitely cool. But it was a good movie. And I'm hoping the same from here. I'm hoping it actually improves upon the second and, and it gets more exposure and does better than the first, because I'd love to see Zach Levi continue as Shazam. Your thoughts?
I do not have high hopes, unfortunately. The trailer did not do it for me. Like, literally, I watched the trailer and I was like, Now, that doesn't mean the movie's bad, because there are plenty of movies with trailers that are just like, whatever, and then the movie's great. And you never know what's going to hit, what's going to not hit. Am I going to go see it? Of course I'm going to go see it, because I see every stupid superhero movie that comes out. But I'm going to go in there with some pretty low expectations, and hopefully they will be, blown out of the water.
I hope so too. I didn't this movie. I don't expect it to be earth-shattering or anything like that. It was fun. I expect it to be fun. The trailer does not make me not want to see it. Does not make me less excited about it. I'm gonna see it probably the weekend it comes out. Again, not a Thursday night showing, but I think a lot, as he said, a lot hinges on the success of this film, and I would like to see him continue. And we have seen many films where the trailer is absolutely amazing. Venom 2, Morbius, both Sony products, by the way. Garbage movies, garbage film. Well, Morbius was okay-ish, so who knows? We'll see. The marketing has been lacking big time for this film, which could say something as well.
Yeah.
That the execs do not believe in it. I don't know how much James Gunn's Peter Sat. Well, actually, they do have a say because they've been pushing Blue Beetle and The Flash. Not much is being said about this film, so I'm hoping for the best. I think you are too. You want to go in there and enjoy the film, right?
Oh yeah. I'm never rooting against, even as like someone who's not a huge DC fan. And I don't think I've ever read a comic book with Shazam even in it.
Okay.
But nonetheless, I'm always rooting for that, because, when that stuff does well, especially when it does mainstream well. It's just better
Yeah.
for the hobby overall.
I agree 100%. We always root for these properties to do well because we want to see more content. And I love, I'm more Marvel than I am DC, but DC had I collected DC big time when I was a kid. Uh, just as much as Marvel. It's probably a 50-50 split, but I want to see it do well. All right, Joe, that there ends the news for this week. We'll have some more new and exciting news next week. Hopefully, it's been a little slow these days, but I'm sure things are going to pick up. Now that Ant-Man is out, maybe they'll reveal some secrets or casting or what have you. Maybe we'll see some Fantastic Four casting down the road. Um, so anyways, stay tuned. We'll have more news. We'll bring it to you each and every week as we do. But this week, I'm excited right here, Joe. I'm excited because not only do we have a new segment that's revolved around you, we also have a new animation that I'm not kidding, Joe. I'm going to create a jingle too because it deserves it. It's called Ask Joe. Did you like that?
Oh,
Did you? It's good. Let's show it one more time, everybody. Let us know. Let us know what you think about this new animation. I personally love it because I created it and I love that face. Although Joe has a. By the way, you need to be following 360 comics. The link is down below, so there's no excuse. But Joe has a great video out today. It's it's all. Where are those funky beats, Raising Hell? Thank you. Maybe I'll get some funky beats on that. It's all Hulk based, right? Because your collection, you have to see this video because the collection he was working on for 10 months, all Hulk related.
oh yeah.
But I love that video, but I love even more your face on the thumbnail. Yeah, it's terrible. So I wish I could have used that as the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But again, this right here is just outstanding. It's outstanding. You've truly made it. All right. This segment is called Ask Joe. It's pretty simple. Ask Joe any comic book related questions you have. Joe knows a lot about going out and finding these huge collections, sending things to CGC, way more than I do. I can't really answer these things. Collecting tips, storage tips, mailing tips, whatever, what have you. Ask Joe. We'll do this every time Joe is on the episode because he loves sharing the information. Isn't that true? You do it on your channel. You find some amazing finds. Follow him right now, 360 Comics. The link is down below. But we're going to get to the first question here. And we're probably going to create proper graphics for this segment too. But we just came up with this, I think, yesterday. Oh, good friend, Raising Home Comics. What book or franchise got you into this hobby, Joe?
Yeah, so I had an interest in comics before I knew what comics were because of the characters in the television show. So really, my top tier number one dog was the X-Men animated series as a kid. Watching that when I was, 3, 4 years old, I guess. That, and then kind of my second tier ones were Batman the animated series and Spider-Man the animated series. So between that trifecta right there, that really forged me into loving these characters before I even touched my first comic book or set foot in a comic book store. And to this day, those are the 3 characters that I mainly collect. I'm almost completed an entire Uncanny X-Men run. I am pretty far off still, but working on that ASM run, and I'm way far off from a complete Batman run and probably will never ever complete that run because of some of those Golden Age books, but that is okay because I'm having fun searching for those books. So that was my foundation, was watching those shows as a kid. When I was 5, actually for my 5th birthday specifically, which was 1995, my dad's friend, Jerome, who he would hang out with my dad, we'd go fishing with him and stuff. He gave me, one day when we were out fishing, a copy of Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1. And, that book had come out a couple years before. This was 95. That book's from 90 or 91? I think 90.
90 probably.
Yeah, which was the year I was born. And he gave that to me for my birthday. And he was like, I know you like Spider-Man. This is a collector's item. You want to keep it in good condition. It's in this bag and board. And,
you're 5 years old. Come on.
But I did.
You did?
I meticulously cared for that comic book. I like carefully took it out.
That's
I
amazing.
laid it out. I looked through it, and there still to this day, I have that copy. There is not a spine tick on that book.
Are you serious?
But somewhere around my like 9, 10, 11 years old, when I was taking it out to look at it again, I did the deadly tape pull. So
Oh,
there's a little small, little, half a centimeter little mark where the cover got tape pulled. So unfortunately it is no longer that like 9.8 contender. I still may get it graded
you
just to
should.
have to put up, or I might just like frame it myself, because that was my first comic book. Joe's first comic book as a kid was Miracle Molly. Jim likes to make fun of me for being significantly younger than him, and I like to make fun of him for being as old as dirt. Um,
Yeah, that's
but
good.
yeah, so
That's
that's
great.
that was the first comic book I ever received. Shortly thereafter, I was begging my parents to let me go in the comic book store at the mall, and there were two near me. There was Legends in the Willow Grove Mall, and in Jenkintown there was a store called Brave New Worlds, which is my LCS to this day. It's since moved to Willow Grove, but yeah, that is still my LCS to that day. And I was getting a couple books off the shelf as they were coming out, mostly like later Clone Saga stuff
Mm, mm.
and that kind of stuff. But I also was buying random dollar bin back issue books. So one of them, probably my favorite book as a kid, was my first cover appearance of Spot, which is Spectacular Spider-Man number 99. It's got that yellow background, Spot and Spider-Man fighting on the front. So I am very excited for the appearance of that character
Yeah.
in Across the Spider-Verse.
Who's going to be the villain in the third film as well. So that's amazing.
Mhm.
Kudos to you. Like, honestly, I would not have been able to do that at the age of 5. My daughter's 7, and I'm telling her how to properly bag and board, and she's literally like, "Yeah, cool," and then like that. So wow, that's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible.
I didn't take care of much stuff when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah,
my Pokemon cards were all beat up, and, my baseball cards, and my room was a mess. But that one book, for some reason, I took good care of it and
and
still have it to this day.
and here you are finding crazy collections.
And Serge Henderson's asking, it was the silver one. It was the silver one,
Silver one,
the
silver and
which
black.
I
Yeah,
think is kind of the standard cover.
that's a good question. What is cover A and cover B? That's
So
interesting.
recently found this one out, had no idea. But the gold one is the second printing. Did you know
Yeah,
this?
I did know that. Yes,
Okay, I
I
I,
never
I had
had
no
it, but
idea. I thought it was just a
another
smaller print
variant.
run. But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure like the silver is the standard, and then the cheap version is the they call it the green one. I don't know why they call it the green one. There's like no green on it, but
No, I think it's basically the color version.
yeah,
Mark Leneker is agreeing with you that the black and silver was cover A, and gold tends to be more valuable because of the second printing. It's crazy how we look at second printings now. That was like a throwaway issue. You wanted the first printing back in the day. Anyways,
yeah.
kudos to you on that. We have another question here coming from the city of Philadelphia as well.
Woo!
So this person probably knows the Willow Grove Mall. His name is Rodeo Clown 76. How do you know what books to send to CGC? Rodeo Clown 76 asks you, how do you know what books to send to CGC?
So this depends on a couple things, because if you love a book and you want it graded and you don't care about the value of it, send anything off to CGC. This
Mhm.
goes along with the collect what you like thing. If you have a book from your childhood that you tape pulled like an idiot when you were 9 or 10 years old, like I did, send that book to CGC if you want it graded, if you want it encapsulated. Encapsulation and grading not only gives you that number, it also does preserve and protect the book. So just an important thing to think about. But as far as the financial aspect of it and making sure that you're making sound decisions when sending stuff out and not losing money, you kind of want to look at a couple things, and that is what the approximate grade is,
Mhm.
and what the value of that book is in that grade, and like at least two of the surrounding grades. So say you look at a book and it is you think it's a 9.0. It's got a couple spine ticks, a little wear, but overall a high grade book. 9.0 is what you think it is. If I saw that, I would be looking at, okay, what if this book gets a 9.0? What value does that book have at a 9.0? What value does that book have at a 9.2? What value does that book have at an 8.5 and even an 8.0? So a full grade point lower. I would take a look at that number. And then you got to ask yourself, what does this book sell for raw? So let's make up some numbers here. Say this book sells raw for about $50 in that lower side of high grade, around a 9.0.
Mhm.
Now it costs you about $30 to get something graded once you include the shipping both ways. So the value of that book, what your all-in price essentially on that book is the $50 value that it has plus the $30 grading value, so $80. Now, if that book in a 9.0 is worth, say, $200 and a 9.2 is maybe $240. And if you go down from the 9.0 that you think it has, an 8.5, it is, say $125. And at a 8.0, it's say $75. Then, you have like kind of an $80 total value that you've put into this book. If you get that 9.0 and it's $200, hey, that's great. Even if you get one step lower at an 8.5, you're still coming up a little bit at, I think I said like $125 value.
Mhm.
And if you unfortunately get that low point that you think you're going to get a whole grade point down from what you think at an 8.0, you're still like about breaking even. It's worth $75. You have like $80 into it. You're kind of breaking even there. That would be something that I would send off to CGC. Now,
Even if you're breaking even, you're saying.
yeah, even if you're breaking even on the low side. You're breaking even, maybe losing a couple bucks here and there on the low side of what you think it is.
Yeah.
But like I said, you think this book's a 9.0. If you get that 9.0, you have more than a double up in your value there. And yes, you do have to determine the cleaning and pressing cost.
Jim brings up a good point.
Definitely something to think about. I personally do all my cleaning and pressing myself.
Yeah.
So
Caleb, this is a good question as well. I like how these questions are riffing off of each other.
yeah,
What kind of prep do I need to do for submission? Bag and board or a top loader? Now,
don't
prep
waste
also
the top
goes back
loader.
to what Jim said too about clean and press. You also, if you really want to invest in a book, cleaning and pressing is a great idea.
Yeah. So when I have like a little box of books next to my press, and that is stuff that I think is good enough to go off to CGC, given that the current prices in the market. And when when it's time to work on one of those books, I take it out. Even if the bag and board is relatively new, I do not reuse that bag and board because there might be dirt in there. There might be something that scratches the cover or something like that. I will always put it back in a new bag and board when I'm done cleaning and pressing it. So I'll do the clean. I'll put it in the press. Some books need to go through 2, 3, 4 times before they're completely pressed. You got to make sure you do it right and take your time with it, especially if it's like a bigger book. Then put it in a new bag and board, like I said, and do not, at least I would not put it in a top loader or in Mylar because they're just going to throw that bag and board away as soon as it gets to CGC. You don't need to protect the book in a Mylar as long as you pack it properly. And we'll get to that in a second. You've got a bag and board is good enough. You put it with the rest of the books that you're sending in because most people are going to send in more than one book to get graded at once because of the shipping costs. And you wrap that thing in bubble wrap like crazy. You make a brick out of it. That's the kind of the term that's utilized, is making a brick out of it. Wrap it in layers and layers of bubble tape. I usually, no joke, do like 4 or 5 layers of bubble wrap. Sorry. And then you tape that up. You put it in the box. maybe put some padding in the box, a little bit extra around the corners and stuff like that. So even if it gets smashed, like we see all the time, people posting their boxes and stuff like that, it will survive that, not doing anything to any of the comic books, and you ship that off to CGC.
Absolutely. Hey, going back on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give an example. You guys remember I got this book for free it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4.
Wow.
I don't know, Joe, if you saw this. I ordered I bought online for a good price. It was less than $100. The first appearance of Sam Alexander in 9.8, the variant cover.
Very nice.
The guy threw in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4, which is worth more than this book. Just for free.
Just threw it in?
He said, "Hey, I put an extra book in there for you. I hope you like it." I'm like, I didn't expect anything, maybe a dollar bin book or whatever, but it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4.
Woo!
So here's the deal with that. Like, I'm considering just sending this in. This is in excellent condition. Like, excellent condition. I don't have the grading eyes that you do. However, if I'm going to say a 9.2, 9.4, because I'm going to get it clean and pressed if I do it, right there, I got it for free. And it bumps up, it's going to be like $325 is a fair market value for something like that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so I'm highly considering doing that. That's a good example of what how you would consider something like that. Look at the numbers.
And yeah, one thing I want to add is that they do have the option to do what's called a pre-screen. Now you have to submit 25 books of the same tier for that. Most people will do modern pre-screens. And what you do for a pre-screen is you set a minimum grade you want. Typically for the modern ones, you're going to want that 9.8. So you can set it as, grade this book if it's a 9.8. Otherwise, leave it raw and send it back to me. Now, this can be good. This could be bad. I've heard people come back with 25 books. They all get the 9.8. Awesome. Fantastic when that happens. Good eyes, good grading, all that stuff. Recently, a friend had 2 books out of 25 get a 9.8. 2.
Yeah, I saw that video. That was awful. Your face was literally like, somebody's fucking with me.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
It happens. I mean, so that being said, if there's a lot of modern books, there's a lot of books in general that it's only worth grading them if they get that 9.8. So using the pre-screen is definitely a good idea for that. Typically, I don't really send in many books that are only worth getting graded in a 9.8. So I've never utilized the pre-screen before.
Yeah,
but James from In Hunter Comics does all the time.
Let's not count out other grading services like the grading service that sponsors our segment, Fresh from the Comic Shop. This book is special to me. This is my daughter's comic book she created. And Tony graded it at a 9.8. Another book that's special to me. These aren't investment books, but another one I got at EGS, and I've talked about this before, is this Amazing Spider-Man #96. It's special to me, not only because it's signed by Stan Lee, but I did a piece on it, a video that was up for an award. So these are both special to me, and it's protecting it, and it displays much better than having a floppy just sitting out, So consider those.
EGS is certainly the service that I would go through as someone displaying comic books. They just look so much better with the custom labels. They have the little characters on there sometimes. They have whatever color you want. You can make them all match each other. You can make it match the book. There's so many ways to do it. Seems like
to remind everybody what our Fresh from the Comic Shop book is this month. It's Mandalorian #5. Look at that. It's got the characters up there, the gradient. It's you're getting way more character in terms of the presentation than you would for a CBCS or CGS. So we're not just saying that because they sponsor this segment. We're just saying that because they're an excellent company, and I am anticipating they're going to get more market share. Absolutely. All right.
Oh yeah.
Good question, Rodeo Clown 76. Now we have Lindsay Hugh. How often do you switch out backs and boards? You kind of alluded to that when you're sending things out, but in terms of your collection, how often do you switch out backs and boards?
Yeah, there's a lot of different numbers that people give you, or like 12 years, 15 years. I've heard as little as 5 years.
Right, that's a lot of work.
That seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I put my expensive stuff in Mylar, so you don't ever have to switch it out.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and then the stuff that's not expensive, it doesn't matter that you switch it out. You're not like damaging the book in any significant way. You know, I've bought plenty of collections that have had the same bags and boards since the 80s, and I've got 9.8s out of those collections.
Yeah.
So it, sure, it's not good for the book to be in the same bag and board that long. But yeah, it's not something you need to do every 5 years. I'm sure that's like, you know, a myth created by Big Bag and Board, you know, to
The industry, they're lobbying
the industry. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, when they get beat up, you know, when you want to make it look nicer, switch them out. You know, but in my opinion, putting stuff in Mylar that's expensive and that you really want to preserve is the way to go. Spend a little bit extra, and then you A, save yourself money on future bags and boards, and B, save yourself a lot of time, because we all know switching out bags and boards takes forever, which is why I hire my friends to do it. And my friend Beth in the chat right now, she was over here just yesterday.
She said she saw your collection that you just picked up.
Yeah, she was over. I think it was either yesterday or the day before, for like 6 hours. Jeez. Helping me unbag and rebag stuff.
That's incredible. That's it was a lot of stuff. I personally don't, unless the bag is absolutely just got the crinkles in it and things like that. I usually don't, which is not great. But a lot of this stuff, especially my earlier stuff, I'm going to keep in good condition in those bags and boards, but I'm not going to be selling any of that. So, yeah. Oh, look, is this your wife?
That's my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is just the end right here. We're about to wrap it up. So if you have a question like, hey, why didn't you put down the toilet seat? Or can you please go run out to Wawa and get some coffee or whatever? Now's the time, Dr. Frankenstein. That rhymed. Now's the time, Dr. Frankenstein. All right. So we're leaving it, unless there's a question from Dr. Frankenstein or anybody else. Right there is, hold on. Ask Joe.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can't wait to put a jingle to that. It's going to be so exciting for me. Okay. Again, every time Joe is going to be on this the show as a co-host, he's going to be having a segment that you can ask. So we'll make sure to promote that on the Instagrams and on here. So feel free to send us your questions. We'll collect them, and we'll start getting a nice little segment going, right, Joe?
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is, you know, we did a kind of like rapid fire, a couple questions today. If it's a more in-depth question, I can certainly go more in depth on it, and it just be one question or two answered. I think we did like 3 or 4 today, but yeah, thanks for the questions, and keep them coming.
All right. Oh, here we go. Let's get Dan. We don't see. Will the original Defenders ever show up in the MCU? He's asking you specifically. The original Defenders.
Maybe. I mean, we still have Strange. We still have Hulk. We're getting Silver Surfer at some point, without a doubt. And we just got Namor. So that it's just those 4, right?
Yeah, I think if we do, and I don't know, Dan, if you're talking about a specific standalone Defenders film, which would be cool. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen.
If we do, yeah, we are many years away, because they are going to have to establish the Silver Surfer.
Yeah,
first.
That's true.
Also, who knows how long Ruffalo's going to hang around? So maybe it'd be with Scar, as like, you know what I mean? Instead of the original Hulk. I don't know. That's a very good question, though, and I think that's something that everybody here would want to see. I'd rather see a Defenders over a well, no, Thunderbolts is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I want Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Thunderbolts is pretty interesting.
They can use Defenders in, like, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the original team. Like, obviously you want to see that team, but there have been other iterations of Defenders that we've even seen already. So, I mean, maybe they don't use Silver Surfer. Maybe it's just Strange, because I think actually the first issue, Silver Surfer, he didn't join until like the 2nd or 3rd issue, right? Of the
it was the 3 of them at first. It wasn't Silver. Yeah, so
yeah, it was just Strange, Hulk, and Namor. So
Defenders. But here's another thing that could happen as well. Not a specific standalone film, but let's say in one of the Kang Dynasty films that's coming out in the next 4 years, they may break off as a side team trying to take care of a specific mission, and right there you have an homage to the Defenders. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Joe, how long do you wait for current spec books to go down? And I'm not sure if GSW CMO is asking in terms of before you pull the trigger and buy it. I guess that would be the case because you don't want to sell
Yeah.
it when it's down.
So it's less a certain amount of time and more when I think it's a good buy. I buy what I like, and I've overpaid on things before just because like I was like, oh, I like this, I want to have it. Um, you know, so on and so forth. Um, that being said, like you just gotta kind of look at when it's cooled down, look at what things are going for at their height. If it's on the top 10 list and stuff like that, if it's being promoted on, YouTube channels and people are talking about record sales, that's definitely not the time to buy it. Typically the time to buy it is some amount of months later, but that can differ based upon, the what it is specifically, how scarce it is. If it's a current book, like you're saying, a current spec book, I'm thinking that those pretty much fall for 6 months after their initial hype. Um, so that's kind of a good rule of thumb to start with, is that 6 month, but buy things when they're a good buy in your opinion. And you're going to be right sometimes, you're going to be wrong sometimes.
And if you're talking for collecting, yeah, absolutely. There may not ever be a perfect time for you. You may buy it when it's much lower than when it was, but it also could go lower. So whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're doing it for investing, kind of the rule of thumb these days, which is quite interesting how it's become this, is when you want to buy before there's a big announcement of casting, before the trailer, and by the time it's ramping up to the film, you're kind of like that time is too. It's going to be too expensive. But after the film, things usually die down as well. I think a lot of Kang books
Yeah.
are going to go down the next 6 months, as we'll see. So
It's interesting to say because of how good the performance was, and also because of how down the market has been recently, we might see the opposite, because we're actually seeing the opposite on one specific comic right now that I can point out exact instance of, and that's Last of Us. That show dropped,
that's yeah.
and the price has been going up and up and up every week.
It's fair, but what's fair to say here is nobody takes into account video game films, right, or series ever do anything, right? And I think a lot of people are like crazed by it's become. I'm not sure if we're at phenomenon yet, but it's become
It's getting close.
it's the buzz is palpable, right? The buzz
Yeah.
is there, and I think that is what's driving it. So that's no matter what that's a very rare instance, as you said, absolutely. But I think that has a lot to do with the video game factor, and nobody took this one seriously. Like, oh, another crappy video game interpretation. But
Right.
by the way, I'm meaning to watch that show. I just haven't been able to. So.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you this. I think with Last of Us, it's kind of like a bunch of things happening at once that are really good. One, the comic book market has what it seems to be bottomed out or near bottomed out, and it's kind of getting a little bit of hype back up again. As well as the fact that video games are hot right now.
Yep.
And the third thing is Walking Dead just ended. They
Yep.
needed some kind of,
you're
post-apocalyptic, dystopic,
Yeah.
kind of thing to watch on
It's
TV.
filling a void.
It really is. It really is. So I think things go well for that because of that. But yeah, I totally agree with you that video games are especially video game comics are the talk of the town right now.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to wrap up the Ask Joe segment. It did way better than I thought it would. I didn't think anybody would care about any of your answers, but they did. What do you know?
Yeah.
So that's Ask Joe. Keep sending in those questions. I think we're going to come up with a hashtag for Ask Joe. By the way, so you're probably going to feel all. Oh, look at me! I finally made it on the cannon. So, but I mean, we already have the animation. I got to play it again.
True, yeah.
I love it, Joe. Come on, you've never told me how you feel about it. Tell me.
I love it. It's great.
All right, good. All right, moving on. We got little props or flops going on here. How do you feel about this? All right, we got two. One we're going to get to in Fresh from the Comic Shop, but I want to do one right now, if you're okay with that. What we're going to do right here. Here we go. Raising Elm. I began my deep dive into comic collecting, searching for issues of Strange Tales and Marvel Premiere. That's where a lot of goodies can be found. Back in March of 2021, I was lucky enough to come across a sale of a 28 issue lot of Marvel Premiere comics for right at $100. Includes shipping and taxes. There were no duplicates in this lot either. I had some gems in this lot that I have since sold and made my $100 back in the process. However, I couldn't allow myself to part with issue 47 and 48 because they will forever hold a special place in my collection. You see, Ant-Man was the first movie my wife and I saw together. What? I plan on getting both these books slabbed by CGC one day, and I will probably get mid grades or higher on them. I mean, I already know what this is going to be, but Joe, let's have you kind of weigh in. Basically, as we do props or flops, it's basically an investment kind of spec, investment kind of it's an we're looking at it through an investment lens, no pun intended, as you see with the Raising Almond, his creativity always. We're looking at it through that lens. So he paid $100 for a 28 issue lot and also got issues 47 and 48. Joe, give us your thoughts right now, please.
Yeah, so I mean, you could have told me you got any books for $100 and sold off more than $100 worth and kept the rest. And I'm going to give it a props because you have funded your hobby. You have done what we all try to do here. And, that is funding your hobby by, buying stuff, selling it, and using that money to buy more books. Or in this case, buying stuff and then replenishing your $100 that you spent on this by selling off part of the collection and keeping stuff for yourself. That's funding the hobby. That is a good, investment, if you will. Obviously, none of this is financial advice or anything like that, but you can't go wrong with that. And as far as these books go, this character has been around for years in the MCU. It's not like you're going to get a big hype up or a big downfall of this book. And the fact that the first one, issue 47, is also Cassie Lang's first appearance, that bodes really well for the long-term value of this book because she will very likely go on in the MCU as a very prominent character.
Absolutely. I mean, I give this props all day as well. You got Cassie Lang and Scott Lang, but you also have the fact that the fair market value right now, again, which could change on cover price for a Raw 47 is $112. Okay. That's less than what you paid for 28 issues of this series. This is a great spec book. It also has a lot of sentimental value to you guys as well. It's weird. If you would have asked, actually, I'm going to ask you to guess what is the fair market value for number 48? Joe, what do you think? Take a guess.
I know I sold one recently. I want to say I sold it for like maybe 15 or 20 bucks.
Okay.
It's Scott Lang's second appearance. I don't think there's anything else significant about that, but it's still a book. It's still a second appearance. It might have actually only been $15.
All right. Well, you did much better because the fair market value is around $8. So it's
$8. Yeah. Wow, that's low. This was before the movie, so might have had some hype.
Well, before the third movie.
Yeah, this was a couple months ago. Your market was higher.
It's still a key book. Like,
sure.
So just, I would never expect it to be that low. So you did good, man. And the fact that Ant-Man was the first film you saw with your wife.
Oh yeah. Sentimental value.
I love that.
Your props all day on that one too.
Yeah, and Brendan Wright props for sure, 100 for that lot. And then these were in there, plus a first appearance that will always, 2 first appearances, by the way, that will always solid value even outside the MCU hype. Yeah, no doubt. We love you, Dan. I'd rather just wait. I can't fund my hobby. That way I'm too sentimental and can't say goodbye to any comic I have. I'd rather just buy comics and listen to my wife yell at me for buying too many comics. Tishu gave it a props as well. All right. So we got props. We're gonna have another props or flops a little bit later in the show. Actually, not that much later. We got that segment coming up where we do that thing. But I do want to say we did have a question come in after Joel LM. We'll get to this question maybe next time.
Yeah, why don't you jot that down?
We will.
It's a good question for sure. But we got to move on.
We do have to move on to a segment that we do each and every week. Each and every week, it's I never can remember the name, and I always need your help, Joe.
Yeah, it's fresh from the comic shop.
Fly from the pressing salon. That's right. Each week we ask you, the audience, to send us in your fresh gets, and each and every week we get some good gets, and we want to talk about them. But not only do we want to talk about them, you can win prizes. That's right. From EGS Comics, you can win a slab that we have each and every month. We run a contest. It's pretty awesome. Fresh from the comic shop. Why am I yelling? Why am I yelling? People complain about me yelling, by the way, and I know who you are. But I get excited about this segment because I want to see fresh comics. Joe, I got to tell you, in terms of the amount of submissions we got this week, I was quite underwhelmed. It must be because it's a holiday weekend or something. Guys, get your submissions in because you can win things like this. Yeah, look at that. The Mandalorian, number 5, Stephanie Hahn's cover, 9.8. EGS. That's right, EGS. This is what they do. They customize the labels. As you can see, it's not the boring blue or yellow or purple or green. It's got the gradient. It's got the characters up there. It's anything you want, they will work with you as long as it's legal.
Put that back up on the screen.
You got it.
I didn't notice this until just now, but that gradient up top matches the gradient behind Din Djarin, that like the door opening up.
Well,
look at that.
Do you think that's on purpose?
Yes,
it's on purpose. The person asked, or Tony made it that way on purpose. That's what they do. Let's tell you a little bit more about EGS before we get into this segment. EGS. You get 5% off your EGS order using the code Canon number 5. Again, you get these custom labels. You get free graders notes, and you do get fast turnaround times. EGS Comics, grading.com. They do a fantastic job. I cannot, again, I'm going to show them off. My first 2 submissions, my daughter's book right here, and then this one is very sentimental to me as well, with Spider-Man. So, guys, you submit a book. You know, we choose one that moves on to the semifinals. Then if you make it past the semifinals, you make it to the finals, and then the audience decides on the finals, and you can win this book. It's as easy as that. So just submit, please. You'll have a good time. I'm a little out of breath. I'm really hyped about this. I don't know why. Okay. In terms of the criteria that we look for to move on to the semifinals, presentation, take a well-composed shot, make it, get artistic with it, have fun with it, have it relate to the book in some possible way. A great example of this was the props and flops that we saw from Raising Elm. Where is it? This was sent in a while back for props or flops, but I mean, look at that. I mean, he's mimicking the cover from number 47 right there. That's fun. That's relating to it. It's also a well-composed shot. You see the books clearly. It's not done with like any, crazy lights or anything like that blaring in the background. So keep that in mind. Unique. How unique is the book? It doesn't need to be a $30,000 book, but something that we may not have heard of before. Mark Leneker does a fantastic job of sharing unique books on his Instagram. That's a guy you should follow. It's literally Mark Leneker. He does a great job of showing off these books that have some sort of historic significance within the hobby that we love. And then last but not least, the story. Tug at our heartstrings. Let us know what this book means to you personally. Like, does it remind you of your dad or the first book you got as a kid? Could it be that Spider-Man number one that you held in your hands at 5 and kept really good care of, and it's probably going to get a 9.8 if it wasn't for that little tape mark right there. Yeah. Tell us what it means to you, because that goes a long way. And in my opinion, that means more than the previous criteria that we have just discussed. All right, are we ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
Let's do it indeed. We got, first off, Son of Comics. Red Hulk approved. That's when you know he approves of this book. Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters, number 1, second print. Villanelli variant signed by Daniel Logan. Logan is best known for his portrayal of Boba Fett from the 2002 film Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, for which he was nominated for a Young Artist Award for Best Performance in a Feature Film at the age of 15. Logan also voiced Fett in the animated series Star Wars The Clone Wars. Daniel Logan did great playing this character. I'm grateful to have this book signed by him in the personal collection. That's a personal story right there of what that book means to you. So that's a very good example of that, Son of Comics. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know all of those things that Daniel Logan. I didn't know. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
As you can see, Joe is doing his algorithmic equations right there.
I'm jotting.
He's jotting stuff down. All right, here we go. Maz's toy box. This guy crushed. This is another good example of getting creative. But this guy, this is what he does. He does a lot of stuff with toys. And this is also props or flops. So this is going to be a longer kind of, we're going to talk about this a little bit longer. So as you see in the foreground, Joe, right there, that is a toy Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse from the first film. And he put the thought bubble. I love that. Never seen that before. This week's Fresh from the Comic Shop is also a submission for props or flops with comic book canon. I just got this book in the mail this past week. My local comic shop didn't have any left that were not already pulled for subscribers. After reading the Dark Web series, I really enjoyed this new character, Wreck Rap, a demon from Limbo that is then bound to a symbiote creature. After reading the book and finding out that Wreck Rap had his own cover variant for his first appearance, I had to pick it up. I found this copy on eBay and arrived in pristine shape as this is a 1 in 25 variant Ed McGuinness cover and a first appearance of a character I enjoyed. I was surprised to get this book for $20 ship. $20 ship's not bad. So I know it's too early to spec on this book, but who else enjoyed this character and is now interested in tracking down this variant as I was? Okay. I have a disclaimer. I knew about this character. I'm not caught up on Amazing Spider-Man I read this series. I'm probably on issue 5. So I'm not caught up. I'm looking forward to it, but a lot of people are saying it's a fun character. As you can see, it's a play on the name Wreck Rap. That's Parker, spelled backwards.
Yeah.
I love the cover. I love what's going on here with the submission. However, you are already, I do believe, in the finals for a previous submission, so we can't move this one forward. But in terms of props or flops, $20 all ship for 1 in 25. I'm going to give that a props just for the you got a below variant, right? Ratio, I mean, below ratio. So it's a good spec. I think you got that for cheap, and it could become something from there. The only reason I'm giving it props is because you did get it probably below ratio. Joe, your thoughts?
So I did a little quick search on the ebay.com, and that seems to be right about market value. I see ones selling for between $15 and $20 shipped. So you're gonna add the taxes and stuff on there and be around $20. So in that aspect, you got it for what it's going for right now. Personally, with modern books, like we mentioned before, I do think they go down before they get back up, if they ever do go back up. So I would have probably liked to have bought in on this book maybe for $12, $15 in the future. But if you didn't want to risk it, I totally understand that, because sometimes those books do not go down and they just go up from there, especially if there's some rumors and stuff like that. And the character especially being a spider character, does have a lot of potential. A lot of the spider characters, even the very minor ones, we've seen them explode in popularity. Did you ever think Spider-Punk was going to have his own run? Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing now.
And toys, so.
Yeah. And Spider-Gwen, a throwaway random character from an event series is like literally one of the most popular characters in the last 20 years. So yeah, I'm going to give it props. It's the 1 in 25 variant, which, those typically go for a lot more, especially when the book pops. Think the Jurjevic variant or the Spider-Gwen, Greg Land variant. And the character being on the cover also is definitely important.
This is the first cover appearance too. Let's make that
right.
clear again.
Yeah, and the character's not on the regular cover A, so that helps this book even more. So, most buys of modern books, I'm going to give flops. This one, I'm going to give it props.
I think we're all agreeing here.
I don't think you're going to, double your money in the next, couple months. I don't think it's going to be like that, but this book has some long-term potential.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody gave it a props that's chimed in, except for Brennan Riley. Like the pick, but I'd say flop. I think the value of that variant will drop below what you paid, and unless the Wreck Rap character explodes, I don't see it going back up. Again, it's a kooky character, crazy kind of character. As you said, Spider-Punk is a good example of that. It's a symbiote too. That's another thing to keep in mind. So, and who knows what's going to happen? Maybe I don't know. I don't know if like Miller Lord, the producers of the Around the Spider-Verse, if this character was in kind of development while they were making the film.
Yeah, I would not expect to see this character in the next or even the one after that.
Probably not.
But and I do agree with Brendan in a way that I do think the value of this will probably go down in the short term. But it's a pretty low buy-in and it has some pretty high potential. It's more speculative than it is investment. That is
totally
for sure.
But again, what we're talking about is the price you paid for this potential investment. That's why we give, and again, this is all opinion based. It's not fact based. We don't know, but you got it below ratio, and we see potential in this book. The first cover appearance, etc. So props all day from Joe and I. All right, moving on. Joe, what's your first fresh get of the week? What do you got? You always do it.
All right, so this, I could not believe that I got this for the price I did at my LCS, because
it's an Amazing Fantasy 15.
It's an Amazing Fantasy 15. It was $4. No, it was 12-cent cover price.
Right.
So local comic shops, they tend to be at or sometimes above fair market value. My shop's pretty fair. They're usually, right around the higher side of fair market value. This, I found that they underpriced this book quite a bit. Probably because some little kid put a piece of paper over this and traced the characters. So there's an indentation on the front of this book.
Oh, look at that book.
Avengers 48. This is the first appearance of Dane Whitman as the Black Knight. He appears as his normal self in the issue before. But we already have Dane Whitman, and he is being played and portrayed by a huge actor in the world of fantasy and fandoms and stuff like that. What's his character's name? Jon Snow. I never watched Game of Thrones, so
I want to do it. I want to try and do it.
I tried once and I was like, man, this sucks. I'm sorry if I offended anyone out there, but I could not get into Game of Thrones.
The same way.
And I play Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, so it's not the fantasy element. It's just not for me. Anyway, if you can look at the price on this one.
What are we looking at?
Right there.
Is that $50?
$50? Yeah.
Wow.
It is. I thought it was incomplete or something, a coupon clip. I looked through it. Complete. It just has, and you probably won't even be able to see it.
It's tough to see.
You see that like on the character, there's a little bit of like wrinkling, and it basically was pressure was applied. The person, it was actually the owner's nephew or grandson, I forget what they said, put a piece of paper over it. Whoa, I'm real blurry.
Yeah, because it still wants to see the book and in frame rate.
You guys want to see the book? Let me try to fix that. That's not helping at all. Let's hit that. There we go. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Anyway, the kid put a piece of paper over the book and then outlined the character and traced the character. This is going to be a project for me. This is going to be a pressing and cleaning. That's normal.
But $50, dude. Like, seriously.
Yeah. So I looked it up. Even low grade copies of this book were selling for like 75. So
what grade are you talking about here? What would you give it?
I mean, as it is, geez, I don't know how bad they would ding for the indentations and stuff, but the book itself is probably like a 4.5, maybe a 5 without that. So
Joe, we're talking the last sale of that book at a 5 was on this last week, the 14th, for $229.
Yeah. So what? How much is like a 3.5?
3.5. We're looking at $125.
Okay, so that's probably as it sits. It's a 3.5. So I'm doing okay as it sits. But again, this is going to be a project. I want to press and
Can't wait.
clean
Yeah,
this one and try to get some of that those indentations and stuff out of there
I
because
can't wait to see that. I
it could look
really
a lot
can't.
better. Yeah, absolutely.
Dan De La Torre has a 3-0 of this. Is it graded,
Nice.
Dan? Let us know. All right, moving on. Who do we have next? We got Mark Leneker. Again, love what Mark brings to the table. Always shows us some unique books. This one, I even said in the comments, this is very unique. We got Dead of Night, number 11, the first appearance of the Scarecrow. Guys, I had a double take here on the book. This is a Marvel book. So
Yeah.
the first appearance of the Scarecrow, I'm like, from 75, what? So it's a Marvel book. That's why, yeah. So similar to Ghost Rider, the Scarecrow is a spirit who may or may not have possessed writer Dave Duncan to protect Earth from the demon god Kulamai and his followers. Years later in the 90s, he was retconned to be a Fear Lord and battled Nightmare alongside Doctor Strange and Daredevil. Personally, I prefer this Bronze Age incarnation covered by Gil Kane and Bernie Wrightson. This issue has become a Bronze Age cult classic. I didn't know anything about this book. I didn't know anything about this character. I find this really fascinating and unique. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I love Bronze Age horror. I have a couple Dead of Night issues. I don't have this one. Didn't even know this one existed. But yeah, this might be something that I'm on the hunt for in the near future.
Yeah, I dig this. The cover's awesome looking. The character looks pretty cool too. So yeah,
There are a lot of really underappreciated Bronze Age horror stuff, mostly on like the DC and Marvel side, but even Charlton had a couple of them. But yeah, there's like Uncanny Tales and Adventures into Fear and stuff like that. Just
yeah.
really underrated stuff.
I'm digging this book, Mark. As always, you bring the heat. So I'm gonna Joe, if it's okay with you, even though I just took you off screen, I'm gonna bring my first fresh scat of the week. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. So, dude, I was there's a shop in Connecticut called Uncle Fred's,
Mm.
and it's one of those shops that you walk in and you're like, this is an absolute disaster. You know what I mean? Nothing is in alphabetical order, nothing is in numerical order. He's got like bins for Avengers or bins for Batman, Superman. It's crazy. But when you start digging, you're like, oh shit, there's some good stuff here. And he's one of those people that uses the Overstreet price card, the hard copy. Very nice guy, too.
From
Uh,
2016.
yeah, it's one of those situations. So I found some good books. Actually, I found some books that are like hot right now, but they're older. Well, within the past, well, two of them are like the past 2 decades or so, 3 decades, and one of them is like recent within the past, I don't know, 2000s. I don't know. But the first one here is something that's DCU related, and you all know my love for John Byrne. It's Legends #1, the first appearance of Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
John Byrne, goodness, as you can see, it's a newsstand. It's not in the best condition, although it probably, well, you can see a little creasing right here. There's a little creasing down here. It's in okay condition. It hasn't, this isn't blown up the world or anything, but it's a good book to have. And I love John Byrne. I absolutely love John Byrne. So I was very happy to find this in the bins. Guys, seriously, if you're in the Connecticut area, I'd say southeastern Connecticut area. I really wish I could tell you where it is. Go to Uncle Fred's. I was there for 4 hours.
And
4
while
hours.
you're there, go to Zupardi's a Pizza, the literal best pizza place I've ever been to in my entire life.
Zupar. Okay. All right.
Zupardi's a Pizza. Anytime I go up for a 3 Men in a Basement event,
Yeah.
I stop there. Me and Pope of Chilitown have gone like 5 or 6 times. It's in West Haven, Connecticut.
Interesting. Okay. I got to check that out.
Yeah.
Absolutely have to check that out. But again, go in there knowing you're going to be digging, guys. You will like there. But that's fun. It's fun. Actually, I like spending time like that. All right. Moving on. Oh, who do we have? We got Raising Elm. Raising Elm. Where are you? Here you are. Again, look at that's Joe. That's what we call a presentation.
Yeesh.
Right? That is a presentation. Let's get dangerous and take a picture in the middle of the road at night for this week's submission. Bought a copy of Darkwing Duck issue #1, Dynamite Comics, at a live sale. Chris, aka Journos, aka the co-host of the show, aka our partner. I'm saying it, Joe. You're Tom Hanks, but you're still part of the show. Okay. he bought this from Chris. He held a sale earlier this month to help Simon's family. May his family continue to find comfort and support from this truly amazing community. Hope everyone is doing well this week, Comic Fam. Again, very creative. Now I have an announcement to make. Raising Elm won last week's submission in terms of the semifinals. So he is in the semifinals, but actually, was it last week? I can't remember. But he was kind enough to relinquish that to the runner-up, which was, I have to open up the email here. I'm sorry. Justin. He wants to give it to Nowhere Bound 86. So, Nowhere Bound 86, you are a semifinalist now. And now Justin, aka Raising Elm, is out of contention, which puts him back in contention this week.
Okay.
Just think about just something to think about. We don't have many submissions either, by the way. So yeah. All right. Moving on. Joe, what's your second fresh get of the week?
Yeah, so my second fresh get of the week. This is one of maybe 3 or 4 books that I did not have to complete my Alan Moore Swamp Thing run. And yeah, Saga of Swamp Thing number
before you
2.
show. Well, no, show it. Then I'll follow. I should follow it up. Anyways, go ahead.
So Saga Swamp Thing 21. This is the second book Alan Moore wrote. He first came on to this title in issue 20. This is also the it's a reworked origin of Swamp Thing. This is when it's kind of realized that he is straight up plant matter, not a human being. And it's also the first appearance of various names: the Cedar, Plant Man, Floronic Man, character that has been utilized many times over the years. This is a good book to have, in my opinion, and it was one that I was missing, and I got it in a Whatnot sale for a good price, and it is near mint very fine plus / near mint, so I'm happy with the grade on that.
Good. Here's the deal. I was digging through a whole box of Swamp Thing stuff at Uncle Fred's.
Nice.
And I didn't get anything because I didn't really know what to get, but there's a lot of Bernie Wrights and stuff. A lot.
Ooh, so all the Bernie Wrights in it. He only did the first 10 issues of the Len Wein run. So any of those 10, they're all good books to get, specifically because Bernie Wrights did the cover.
Okay, did not know that.
Yeah.
I think you would have loved what they had there.
I love me some Swamp Thing.
I know, because you are swampy. Moving on. I didn't say that. Moving on, we got Nerds Being Geeks. Nerds Being Geeks did win recently, like in the past 2 months, I want to say. But here's another submission, though. I know you're going to like this, too. Creepy Magazine number 4, covered by Frank Frazetta. I wanted to branch out to more monster horror books. EC can be expensive if you want the original books. Creepy and eerie magazines seem like the next step in my horror comic collection. This issue is from 1965, and with legendary artist Frank Frazetta doing the covers, it seemed like a great avenue to start exploring. What do you think about that? I don't know how familiar you are. I am not into horror. I know you are big time, Joe. Issue number 4. Do you actually collect the EC the EC brand?
Yeah. So I love the Golden Age pre-code EC stuff, Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt. I do have a couple of the magazines. Specifically, I have a couple of the Steranko and Frazetta covers because I really buy those for the cover art. So getting the artist that I really like, and Frazetta is just absolute legend.
So that's a good book to have right there. Nice stuff there. Nerds Being Geeks. All right, my second fresh get of the week. Here we go. Again, continuing on at Uncle Fred's. This is, I'm not going to give a spoiler away, but it relates to Ant-Man. And this is why this book is popping. This is Avengers Annual number 21. Again, another newsstand. Look at that, Joe.
Ooh.
You know how I know it's newsstand? Because
barcode?
Yeah, the barcode. That's how I know. And so yeah, I was very happy to find this. Again, all this thing is a press, and it's going to be in good condition. It's a thicker book, as you can see, but it was a solid get. Although it doesn't have those staples, so you gotta be careful with the press on these, right, Joe?
Yeah, you can't use too much heat with square bound books because the
Yeah,
glue actually can melt and then seep out, and you don't
that's
want that.
that's not something you'd want. Anyways, I was happy
Yeah.
to find this for $4, Joe.
Yeah.
That's a good get.
So for those of you who have been watching this channel for a while, a couple months ago, I mentioned that book on this channel
He
in
did.
my, I think we called it like affordable spec books under $10
Right.
or something, or under $20. And that book for the longest time was a dollar bin book. In fact,
Mm.
I think I have still sitting in the room next to me 20 some copies of that book.
Woo!
Yeah. It's not a dollar bin book anymore, folks. So
I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm excited what it means, how it ties into things from what happened in Ant-Man. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
yes. I'm
Uh
excited for the future of the MCU.
Absolutely. All right, here we go. Our last submission, guys. Again, we were this is the lightest submission we've had in a long time. I have a
Wow.
feeling it has something to do with the just Dr. Frankenstein hit you up? Is that why you were looking this way?
No, I was looking at my book right next to me.
You're coming up.
Yeah.
Let's show off the Collector Without Fear first. This is sorry. Oh, dang.
Ah,
I'm a mess. Sorry. The Collector Without Fear, fresh from the comic shop this week. We have Punisher 218 main cover on the left and lenticular variant on the right. This is the first time Frank Castle dons the War Machine armor, so it's fitting that these books are flanking the Punisher War Machine diecast 1/6 scale figure by Hot Toys. I've been eyeing it for a long time now, and at first I was just going to go get cover A, but I broke down and grabbed the lenticular cover as well because I love the homage to the classic Iron Man 282 cover, the first War Machine. It seems like such a perfect pairing that I'm shocked Frank Castle didn't get his hands on the War Machine armor sooner. Imagine this happening in the MCU. If it ever does, I'll be wearing my brown pants to the theater. I love it. And I messed up, but here is a closer look at that Punisher figure. Goodness, that thing is badass. Yo, I would. How excited would we be if we saw the Punisher in War Machine armor? Like seriously,
yeah, yeehaw. I'm into it.
I wouldn't need to wear the brown pants, but for those that do, please do it. Actually, just don't go. All right. Your last fresh get of the week, Joe. By the way, that was our last submission. We're going to show our last fresh gets. We're going to pick a semi-finalist here. Yeah, that's what's happening next in the next few minutes of the show. Joe, what do you got?
Earlier in this show tonight, Jeff mentioned a certain Hulk collection that I was able to pick up.
Watch the video.
Watch the video. It's a cool story about how patience really pays off sometimes. Basically, I met this guy at a flea market 9 or 10 months ago. I mentioned this in my video from that flea market. There was a community yard sale 9 or 10 months ago. I said, there's a 10-second clip that I looked up today of me going, some guy at the flea market mentioned to me he had a Hulk collection and we exchanged numbers. So maybe that'll turn into something. 9 or 10 months later, I checked in with him. He was still interested in selling. Then a couple months would go by. He'd check in with me, ask if I was still interested. And he's like, okay, I'm still getting things together. Finally, it came to fruition this past week. I got a really amazing Hulk collection and it was very, very complete. Now, not completely complete. There was no Hulk 1. There was no Hulk 2. There was no Hulk 4 or 5.
Really
But
there's a lot there, Joe.
Yeah.
You're understating this is what you're doing.
Almost every silver, bronze, copper, and 90s Hulk issue. So almost everyone. There were 2, 3, 4. There were 5 books missing from Incredible Hulk Volume 1.
May I interject too, by the way, as somebody who watched that video today, just watching Joe pan along all of the books, I don't know if it was on your floor or where it was.
It's on my table.
Oh my God, that's worth it to watch alone. It's incredible how much he's got. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
I'm hyping your video up. 360 Comics, everybody. Follow along.
Watch the video, please.
Yes, watch that video.
Help my algorithm. Give it a thumbs up. And you're also entered in my giveaway if you subscribe and like and all that stuff too. But This I felt like was the most unique book. It's not the most expensive book in that collection. It's certainly not the highest grade book in that collection, covered in tape, but I thought it was the most unique book. Not only is it a single digit Incredible Hulk book, this is issue number 3, the third appearance of Hulk, third appearance of Bruce Banner. It is also, as you can see up at the top here, I'm probably going to get out of focus again. It is the UK price variant right up there. So this was the UK printing, which was a much lower print run. But as I said in my video, lower print run doesn't mean more expensive, because there is a lower demand for these. Most people want the American printings, but you know, there are people out there that wants these. It's got tape all over it, low grade. I think it's probably a 0.5, sorry, not a 0.5, a 1.5. Because it is complete and all there and stuff, but it's a single digit Hulk book. You can't go wrong with that.
Oh man, it's incredible. Like a lot of the stuff you got, and also the kind of history you give on the Hulk. That video was awesome, man. One of my favorites of yours, actually, other than the thumbnail. But you guys got to check it out, because there's another gem in that collection. I don't want to give it away.
There's a couple, yeah.
An absolute like gem. So and it's like not, it's Hulk related, but it's really that's not, it's not. So I loved it. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna show my last fresh get of the week. Then we're gonna announce who the semifinalist is. Again, another poll from Uncle Fred's. Y'all heard the DCU announcements of what's coming down the road. This is crazy. This is the Authority #1 for $9.
$9. What's that selling for now? Like 60, 70?
I'll have to look that up while you're doing your algorithm. You know what I'm talking about. But this is in incredible condition as well. $9. I told you he prices this using the Overstreets, you know. So
yeah. Well, that was a $10 book. I'll tell you that book was in my really high grades, where I think I had priced at $7, and you know, if they had like a spine tick or two, I had them in my $5 bins for forever. Yep. until the announcement. Now that's a $60, $70 book.
It's a hot book. So yeah, I was happy to find that right there. I'll look this up, what the fair market value is going for right now, Joe. But you have to use that computer in your head right now.
Yeah.
To determine who the semifinalist is going to be this week, and we'll go up against Nowhere Bound 86, I do believe. Okay, so fair market value. Well, one just sold yesterday for $60. So they say the fair market value for very fine. Well, hold on, let me see here. $66 for, you know, a nice copy.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, happy to find that. I was like, yep, okay. Jim got a Creature Commandos miniseries for $10. That's pretty dope. That is pretty dope. Because I wonder how much those are going for. And there's a bunch.
That was on the crawl that I went to last week, on the 3 Men in the Basement crawl. I think that's where he found it, at least.
Yeah, I don't. What is that? Is that like their first appearance series?
No, so that is their first solo. Their first appearance.
Oh, I got you. Okay, got
back in the 70s or I guess early 80s. In Weird War Tales. The Creature Commandos solo miniseries was in the 2000s.
Oh, are we talking New 52?
I think it was pre-New 52, but
here we go. We're talking, it was in 2000. I mean, Jim, that first book alone is $43. So you did okay.
Wow.
You did okay.
Woo.
All right. So, Joe, even though you are the guest or the co-host, not the guest, guest has been you're like the what's that? The interim head coach.
Interim. Yeah.
Then you got the contract. So, who do we got, man? Who do we got as moving on to the semifinals?
Drew up some
information,
and I'm calculating at a 97.8% accuracy right now. So I mean, we can kind of trust these numbers, but I mean, if you want to give your opinion too, you can. I mean, there were some good ones.
There were.
Why don't I give
Let's
my
go
top
through it.
three?
Let's go through it.
Yeah, let's
Which
talk
was
about my top three. Um, I really like the first one. I forget who did. I didn't write it down, but it was that Boba Fett book signed by the
oh yeah,
actor.
that's Son of Comics. Yep.
Yeah, that was Son of Comics, right? Of course, Red Hulk. Duh, I should have known that. Really unique book. As far as a more obscure Star Wars title, and the fact that it's signed by the actor who portrayed the character, I believe, once.
Yep. And kind of
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, the only time Boba Fett really ever appeared as a kid. So it makes sense they would only be that character once. Uh, but yeah, I thought that was a really cool, unique book. That one stood out to me. So did the Raising Elms Darkwing Duck. Great
Yep.
shot that flag.
Oh, why is somebody calling me, guys?
Oh gosh.
That's my neighbor, Rich. He should be
Uh,
watching. He usually watches the show.
Oh wow, what a
Yes.
jerk. Yeah, so I thought this was really cool, especially with the little squeaky bath time duckies, rubber duckies. Um yeah, great stuff. Really cool that Darkwing Duck is making a resurgence, as well as Gargoyles. Dynamite's really putting out some cool stuff right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and then my the third rounding off my favorites was Collector Without Fear, that Punisher.
Yeah, man.
That
Oops, I did the wrong one again.
this guy. There we go. Yeah, just having both books and the model there, and there's a good black and red color scheme going on. I thought this was just a really well composed shot, and pretty unique given that there is a lenticular book there. You don't see them super often. And especially on a key book, most of the lenticular books are
Mhm.
kind of just throwaways. This one is a probably one of the most significant of the lenticular books.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a nice one for
do,
sure.
do you have any others that you want to showcase, or what were
I,
you thinking?
I'm thinking the same thing that you thought. I really, Raising Elm sticks out every time he submits. And the Collector Without Fear, like he does a great job too in terms of like um capturing the depth of field and creating a unique symmetrical shot. I love what he does with this as well. Maz's toy box. I mean, he's not eligible, but geez, it's worth a mention, man.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I would
worth
have
a
mentioned that in
mention.
a second, but I put a star next to it saying it wasn't eligible, but
Not
definitely a
eligible.
really cool shot.
Yeah,
I like that a new medium was incorporated with the word bubble. That's
exactly, man.
definitely very cool.
So, anyways,
Um,
you have yeah. So let's run it through the computer because it's not you personally. You have the algorithm.
yeah, I got that. I mean, the
Nobody,
algorithm. I have an answer for the algorithm, and you can tell me if you agree with this
nobody can
one or
blame
not.
you personally, guys.
Yeah.
It's the computer he's created.
We could always bring in the holy tiebreaker. But yeah, I thought Collector Without Fear. That
Yeah,
was my
I
favorite
was.
one.
That's where I was too this
All
week
right,
going
cool,
into the
cool. So
show.
we agree on that one.
Yep. So Collector Without Fear, you are moving on to the finals. I do believe you'll be going up against Nowhere Bound.
Woo!
Yeah. So that's that right there is, and thanks to Justin too for kind of handing that back over to Nowhere Bound.
Yeah.
That right there ends Fresh from the Comic Shop. It's been a great segment. It's been a great show with you as well, Joseph. As I said, we're going to be figuring some things out. Chris is a valuable member of this community. Chris is always the part of comic book canon. We're going to figure out what we're going to do here. He's dealing again. Family comes first, so he's dealing with some things. But again, just give him love, support as we always have. And he'll be back when he can. Maybe he'll be here and there. But we appreciate all of you guys sticking with us, having fun with us, talking about comic books because there's some real shit that's going on in this world. There's some heavy shit that's going on in this world. And I get a little sentimental at the end of the show because, yeah, I go through issues as well. I told you I deal with anxiety, depression, things like that. And this show helps me kind of get out of that shell, even if it's just for a couple of hours, just talk about comic books. And comic books have always been something I turn to. So words don't express how much I appreciate all of you. Joe, you especially too. I'm so grateful I've met you in this community. And you're Tom Hanks and you're going to continue being a part of this show. Like we can go to, so I'm very happy with that. But again, we'll communicate how we're going to deal with this right now. Yeah, we will continue the show. No doubt about that. But maybe a day change. It may be revolving hosts. We don't know. We're gonna figure it out. But I don't know, Joe. You have any closing words?
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing. Follow 360 Comics, because if you're not, I'm going to come to your house, knock down your door, and ask you why you're not. And I will not
Yeah.
pay for that door, Joe. You know that, right? Because I've kicked down your door before for less things.
My wife's going to be upset. She painted that door just a couple months ago.
Well, I've kicked it. That's why she painted it, because I kicked it down before. I'm not.
Oh, yeah. New door.
So, okay.
New door. Wait a little bit. We need to get our bathtub replaced. That's going to be a lot of money. So just like wait a month or two.
Okay.
Like let me do some claim sales and build up some cash.
Okay.
No, yeah, that's, I mean, this community is awesome. This show's awesome. I'm happy to, be a part of it when I can be. I'm sorry for everyone who doesn't get to hear Chris, give his constructive thoughts, and you have to hear me babble about some book that I got when I was 5 years old instead. But
that's what it's about, though. We've talked about that. Chris talked about his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adventure.
That's true. But yeah, you guys are great. Keep coming back.
And you're getting some subs here, man. See, look at this.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so we'll be back again. We'll get you the date and time this week coming up. Continue to submit in your fresh from the comic shop, please, guys. We don't want to have another day like this. We had some excellent submissions, don't get me wrong, but we want more. We've had way more than this, so maybe it's because it's the holiday weekend or what have you. But until next time, everybody, be good to yourself and be good to others. Peace.